So Brian, uh, you have a few disclaimers you want to get out of the way before this one. Well, first of all, let me just give the basic premise, which is Bryant is going to explain to me how the global economy works, and I have no idea how it does.
It's
So,
all improv, and this is for acting purposes only. So, disclaimer, because I'm going to cut Michael off because I feel like this is that important.
and I'm that
I don't
stupid
know.
when it comes to I don't
I
know.
don't know what I'm talking about. This is for acting purposes only. I'm inventing all of this from the top of my head. So, if anyone that, no one should listen to
Yeah,
this, right? No one should listen to this.
but make sure to like and subscribe. Don't listen,
Uh,
just like and
no one. This is all acting purposes only. This is all fake. Okay, this
I
isn't
don't take this as
real.
advice or facts or
Yeah,
anything.
go consult your own accountant, your own financial advisor, your own banker, your own cousin, your own grandpa, your grandma, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, whoever you want to consult. But don't listen to us because we're all idiots. I'm an idiot. This is all fake. Okay, acting purposes only. It's not real. Okay, improv. All right. Anyway,
All right,
Michael,
so
continue.
so economics, right?
Yes.
So this is what I understand. I understand hunting and gathering to acquire resources and food.
Okay.
I understand pillaging,
Okay.
taking other.
Pillaging and plunder. Okay.
Yeah, I don't agree with it. I don't think it's a good thing, but I understand the basics of how that works.
Okay.
Like I could wrap my mind around it.
Mm-hmm.
And then humans developed agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
So we settled it into one place, and that's I believe where the barter system comes in because it was like, okay, this person grows corn and then this person grows wheat, and
Okay.
and they come together in the market and they exchange corn for wheat.
Something like that, right? So you understand the barter system, but
I understand the barter system wants that,
so we actually had like a brief conversation
and
before this, like on the side. So for
yeah,
everyone listening
try
to
to
know,
make a video.
you're basically your understanding stops at the barter system, right?
Yeah, because once currency comes in, it's like, what? I don't even understand gold to tell you the truth.
Okay. So I'm gonna break down everything. This is gonna be like a 10-hour episode, right?
Okay,
And basically like everything A to Z that you think of, I'm gonna answer, right? As an economics or bachelor's in bullshit, right? So
so let's say I bought this for $3.50. Why?
kombucha is getting good.
I finished it and it was delicious. So
Okay.
why does this cost $3.50? And what is $3.50?
So
Am I are you even real? Am I real? What the hell's going on?
we're all in the matrix, right? We've all
Maybe
proven
with a
it, right?
credit card that I could just it's not really even money. I mean that part I understand,
First of all, I'm a firm believer in not holding cash.
not holding cash.
Like I believe that cash is silly and like how do I express this? So the concept of cash for me, like hoarding cash is stupid, frankly stupid. The reason why is that cash is just so what is cash, right? What is currency? It's a medium of exchange. It's the middleman. But when I say middleman, you get confused because it's not really a man, right? It's not really in the
Right.
middle.
That's what
But
confused me. And I don't even want a man there or a
oh,
middle
right, right, right.
person.
So it's a
But
it's
if
intermediate
we're
of
exchanging,
exchange.
like, let's say we're exchanging you, let's say you have wheat and I have beans, and then some middle person comes in, like, fuck this guy, what's he got to do with anything?
I completely agree. So what it is, it's like a social contract, it's social trust
Yeah, well,
between
that's
the
what.
currency, the
Okay.
system, the government, and basically what it's saying is that I got an iPhone, right? Like, bro, I got an iPhone. You want an iPhone, but you want my iPhone, right?
Yeah,
And an iPhone is worth, let's say, 5,000 oranges, right? But I have no use for 5,000 oranges, right? So basically, it's a way to trade one thing for another. Like, let's say you want a haircut, right? But maybe you don't want an orange, right? So let's say you're an apple farmer. All you got is apples, right? You grow apples. All you got is apples, and you want a haircut. But the barber doesn't want apples.
the barber wants an iPhone.
The barber wants an iPhone, right? So what do you take with your oranges? I want app. I mean, what do you take with your apples? I want apples, right? I'll give you my iPhone for the apples, right?
And
And
then
then you'll
I
take
take
my,
the iPhone to the barber.
yeah. So basically that's like a three-way system, right? And that slows down. being able to move like to barter, right? That's so physically bartering from one person to the next, it takes a while. It's not an effective, efficient way of doing things. Like let's say, let's take it to another few degrees. Let's say you got nuts, right? Yo, Michael, I want your nuts, right?
I know.
But but all I'm doing is all I got is this cup,
Mm.
right? But you don't want a freaking cup, right? I got to trade this cup for a
Yeah.
goat, and the goat for something else like a fish or salmon, and then from the salmon I got to trade like shoveling manure, and then from manure I got to trade that service for, I guess, pecans, and then I don't like pecans, I want your peanuts, so I got to trade the pecans for wheat, and then wheat, you want wheat, so you trade wheat for the nuts, right? I got to trade through like 50,000 people, 10 people, 5 people, in order to get from my whatever to your peanuts, right?
All right, but then how come? Okay, okay, I'll let you continue. I shouldn't. I
No,
shouldn't.
but no, ask your question, right? Because this is all nonsense we're talking about.
That part I understand, but how do you get from that to this being $3.50 for the entire?
Because you basically invented a social system.
Yeah, but the demand for this isn't the same for as it is somewhere else, or I might not even want it as bad as I do on one day and another. So
Yeah.
like me going up to it basically should be like me going to the cashier and being like, "How much does this cost?" Instead of labeling it with a set price.
Well, the set price
I think maybe
that
that's the thing that once the ability to negotiate is out, then I think it's kind of rigged because
yeah, but the
you know what I'm
people
saying.
create. I think in general, people crave some stability or expectation or consistency. Like people want safety,
Mhm. That's a
stability,
big
and
assumption on your part, isn't it?
Wabin.
That's a big assumption on your part.
That is a big assumption on my part because I'm making an ass out of you and me, baby. That's what assumption is, right? So basically, like people can set the price and people can say, because people crave stability. Like if today, let's say you got paper currency. So what is paper currency really? It's basically like saying, okay, the government or whatever governing body or whatever people agree on says this will represent the equivalent like a middle person. Like let's say you want a goat and I want an iPhone, right? We got to trade like 50 different places. We're going to say that this paper currency is just going to be a social contract to be worth whatever units. And that will basically skip having to trade to 10 different people.
So how come they don't let us do whatever we want with that currency in terms of negotiation?
So I
In some
think
places you can negotiate, right?
no, so I
Like
think big box
cars, like
retailers,
buying
right?
cars is a classic example where
Yeah. So
for
so I
whatever
think that
reason, like there's some things we allow in society to negotiate and some things we don't. Most things we don't. Would you agree that most
no,
goods and
so I
services
agree. Like for example, let's say you want to buy a house, right? You
totally negotiable?
negotiate the price, right? Like they'll have a set price for the house, and then you can negotiate higher or lower, whatever, right? But then you have things like stores and Costco and Walmart, right? Where you just want the efficiency of speed might be more important. So they already set the rock bottom price, the limit, the lower floor price of what they're willing to accept
Who
and
says
sell
that
for.
though? The company
The
or
company, the people, whoever is running the business, right? They set the floor price, and then you
the
decide based
seller
on
or the maker?
the seller.
Okay.
So like the maker could set a floor price for the seller. The seller can set a floor price. Like
Okay.
what's the absolute like Apple is a classic example, right? Like all right, so this iPhone, right? Apple's gonna say, I want at least $10 for this iPhone, right? So no matter, so that's the lowest I'm willing to go, and they could sell it at that, right? Any less, they just simply won't allow the transaction to occur. They
So
just want to.
because the volume of the commodity is so large, it's more efficient to stamp it with a set price.
Yeah, so like you want to buy it, you don't buy it, I don't care,
That makes sense because the things that are negotiable are rare and tend to be
sometimes, right? Like
like
sometimes
houses,
things
cars,
are rare and not
jewelry,
negotiable.
houses, cars, jewelry. I really can't think of anything else
I
that.
can't negotiate jewelry. If I go to a Tiffany store, I want a necklace. Whatever the price is whatever the price is.
Oh, you can negotiate. You could go in there and negotiate.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, I didn't know that. Really?
Hmm.
Have you done that?
Dude, yeah. I mean, I was almost engaged once, and there's a lot of negotiation in like engagement rings, for example.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So basically, as far as I know, it's a very American and Western thing to not have this negotiation. Like I know in China, when you go to a shop, like a marketplace, right? You
Mhm.
negotiate everything. Like the T-shirt, the list price is like 200 renminbi, and then it's like, oh, I'll give you 50 renminbi instead, right?
Yeah, and
So
I noticed that sometimes when you go into like uh non-American stores here in the US, they'll hit you like with deals. You'll be like, how much is this t-shirt? And then they'll tell you like, oh, one is 20, but I'll give you two for 35. They'll just throw it at you out of nowhere.
something like that.
And it's not
So
listed.
yeah, so I think the concept of like cash itself is weird because like at any moment the governing body can just print like 50 million of them, right? Like Zimbabwe or like what they did in Germany or what they did in Venezuela, where they'll just print like, let's just print like 20 million more units, right? Let's make a $50 trillion bill, $100 trillion bill.
And why is that good for, and the government does that to appease the people, like in terms of crisis?
No, because they don't actually have money. Because the thing is that money is a social contract.
Yeah.
So
It's like laws,
so
right? Just that
they're violating the social contract. When they do inflation, they're basically violating social contract. So like for example, like let's say me and you we agree that today we have a trust system, right, in our community, and we go, you know what? If I do 1 hour of working as a cashier, you'll pay me $10 for that, right? Then that $10, that paper thing, is a social contract that says it will allow me to buy one McDonald's meal somewhere else, right? Once you say that, oh, I'm just going to print a million of these paper dollars or whatever, right? Then there's too much money in the system. Then it devalues what you can do with it. So
because the
like
seller knows that.
no, because there's just too much in the system. There's no trust. So like
Trust go away when there's too much in the system. Because automatically when you said that, I was thinking like the seller know there's more. There's more.
yeah, the sellers will know that there's more in the system that they can buy do less with it. So like when let's like that's what a lot of people don't get about inflation. Like it's not really free money if the government is just printing it out of thin air. Because there's like resources by themselves, they have to have some finite set amount in order to have value. Like scarcity is a value. So when let's say when you say um like Michael, we have $100, right? But then someone else comes in and then throws in $100,000 into it, and then that $100,000 now exists where someone can just give you $50,000. Would you take my $100 for that item, or would you take the $50,000?
Right, I see. Well,
Right.
yeah.
So then there's more items floating in the system. So like all money is like the reason I don't like to have cash. Like I might have
There's
like five.
there's too many parameters like when it scales because all right, can deflation happen if, let's say, if the entire population of the US, which is one social contract when it comes to currency, right?
Something like that.
Let's say the entire population starts saving 10% more of their money.
There's less in the system, then you'll have like deflation. In
Okay,
which case, the money that's in the system is worth more. So there's inflation and deflation, right?
right.
And all of this revolves around the social contract, which is currency. So like if you, I'm
So it
even
does
getting lost.
depend
I'm
on
trying to like
people.
think about the best way to explain this to someone, because the thing is that like in regular items, like you might be like, okay, one orange is worth, one apple is worth one banana, right? But then if you have like cash, right, to like exchange in between, and you say like one orange is worth $1 and that $1 is worth one banana, right? But then if in that system now you have $1 million, right, into that system where everyone has it, then no, that one orange is not worth like that one orange is no longer worth $1. That one orange is probably worth $1 million, and that $1 million is worth the one banana, because that intermediate of exchange is what people will accept for work because that has to have equivalent value or social value or what people believe is value in between 2 points. And I'm trying to think like it's like think of currency as like uh having to walk across the street. And let's say let's say we live across the street from each other. And I got to walk across that road to get to you to your house, right? And that road represents that's just the system that we work in, right? I walk across the road, I get to hang out with you. That's that road represents currency. Let's say you add like a million highways in between us. And then now I got to walk a lot more to be able to get to you. Like I got to walk a lot more distance. I got to travel, do more work to get to you. And that highway or those roads represent the inflation in currency. Like when you add,
I get the so now I get the substitution part. I get the like three
right,
people part.
I don't. I'm wrapping my head around it too because like I get it in my brain, but I don't get it like by words. It's like goo goo gaga coming out of my mouth.
No, no, you're making a lot of sense. I feel like you're doing a great job, especially that third. I forgot about that three-way exchange. But once you start scaling that, and once you give a third party, being the government, right, the ability to control the production uh, of that uh, middle
Intermediate of exchange or that currency.
the middle person, which represents the currency, which represents the middle person,
Right.
and you're introducing way too much fuckery on the part of the government, on the part of the buyers, on the part of the sellers. People can start to make things not really the way they were intended to be, just with that three-way system. When you make it, when you blow it up, and when you give the government the ability, like anybody could start. Do you understand where I'm going?
Yeah. Because like the thing is that currency was supposed to represent something. Like before it was representing like gold standard, right? People think like, okay, I go to the let's say I have $100 bill, right? And that $100 bill is worth a gram of gold or an ounce of gold, whatever the case is, right? I go to the US Treasury, I give them a piece of paper. That's an agreement that they give me an ounce of gold, right?
Mhm.
Once you take it off the gold standard, it's not backed by anything, right? It
Yeah,
just becomes a social construct.
the U.S. did that in the '70s, right?
Yeah. Then it becomes like a completely social construct where it's like
How did that ever happen, by the way?
well, I mean the thing is that we sort of value other things that are like more than gold, right? Like we can't eat gold, right? To eat, to live, and
I
you
mean,
can't live in a gold bar for a house, right? So the idea of backing it with gold is sort of like, what if people just don't value gold anymore, right? The thing is that you want to feel value for the work you do or the items that you have, and that having that, like for example, let's say Michael, I need you to I guess do something stupid for me, mundane, right? I need you to teach me guitar or whatever the case is, right? And that requires work on your behalf. You got to teach me guitar, you got to take the guitar and
it's a
or
certain,
like Michael, I need you to make me a guitar. That takes you time to like, I guess, chop it together, put it together, whatever, right? It requires work and resources. And you need an incentive to do that. Like you got to get something out of it, right? Like you're a great guy, you're a nice guy, but I don't think you're so altruistic to do everything for free for other people, and other people aren't going to be so altruistic to do everything for free for you, right? So there has to be a way to measure that value. And let's say that value is the dollar, right? Is like, let's say half an hour lesson with you is $20, right? For $20 you'll teach me guitar for half an hour. But the problem is that once you introduce so much dollars in that system out of thin air, then someone can just come in and like give you like $200,000,
right,
and
right.
then
But
and
at
then I
the
only
same
have 20.
time,
Wabin?
we also established at the same time that as people who own, like, I mean, it's not a big secret that people, like a lot of people, live among their above their means, right?
Well, then there's debt and credit and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's not get into that part, at least in this discussion.
I mean, we can later, but yeah. Well, so
So
my,
say
my,
like
my
we're able to set up a system where everybody just magically saves 10% more. It would automatically cause deflation, right?
something like that. Like, because the thing is that the economy only works if people are spending money between people, right? Because you need
Spend money
taxes.
what?
So like the economy functions by an exchange of interactions like GDP and stuff like that, like what they call GDP, gross domestic product production, something like that.
That's the total value of all goods and services produced by
No, like good, like consumed, sold, worked on, whatever, right? As long as it's not black market. So it's like with currency and like that's what they look at. And like like I think the way that cash is nowadays, like there's so much abundance of it that it's like I like people don't trust that it has value. Like if there's too much of it,
yeah, I'm not trusting it just by your explanation alone.
yeah. So like I don't trust it. Like I'd rather have $10,000 in action figures, like if we were to equate, than $10,000 cash.
You'd rather have 10,000 of anything that's non-perishable, you'd say?
Yeah, I would rather have $10,000 worth of whatever is not perishable now that might appreciate in time, that is like scarce. Like give me $10,000 in equivalency of gold than cash itself. I'll
Yeah.
take that, because like cash itself is something that the government can just print out of thin air and introduce into the system and give away for free to everyone. And then and that lack of scarcity means that the value becomes less, especially because it's just a social construct.
So what are some of the ways that the government messes around with this ability?
I mean, they have the Federal Reserve and people can lend money for free or just print out of thin air. Like I don't want to talk about the US government. I want to focus more like Zimbabwe and like these countries that were like, you ever see one of those pictures about like 1923 Germany where people are using wheelbarrows to like buy butter, or like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Huge.
take money to throw into the furnace to burn for heat because it's more valuable as a
Yeah,
fuel source.
because their nation was in massive debt.
So like
So yeah, that doesn't even make sense to me. The nation is in massive debt. Wouldn't you print less money instead of more money?
no, the thing is that they needed a way to incentivize people to work or give them like a reason to work. So by doing so, they had to print money that people might believe they could use for other stuff.
Mm.
Like let's say you're a soldier, right? Your 10 hours of your life to work as a soldier, it's got to be worth like being able to feed your family, right?
Yeah.
So basically they don't have food, but what do they have? They have a printing machine to give you a piece of paper that makes believes that it's worth 10 units of bread, right? But then basically they, instead of printing one piece of paper, they print a million pieces of paper, right? So that everyone's competitive with all those pieces of paper that they have. Because the issue is that if someone had, if two people want the same resource, like let's say me and you, we want uh what's a collectible item you like and that I like? Let's say a Mando figure, right? Me and you want a Mandalorian toy.
Okay.
Okay. And that Mandalorian toy, we both want it, like just as bad, right? And you got $20 and I got $1,000, right? You Someone's gonna take my $1,000 over your $20 for that Mando toy, right? In a perfect economy, in like a perfect competitive economy. And that's sort of like what's happening in the government, where they're just giving everyone like $1,000 and then the next guy 10,000, and they're all trying to compete for the same resources. They're a finite. So like if we both want the same loaf of bread in a grocery store, one person, the government's like, I'll give you $100,000, and the other person only has like $1, and there's only one loaf of bread, the guy with $100,000 is going to get it because certain resources are finite.
Yeah, but that's just, yeah, I think the problem, it allows human greed to take over.
Right. So like like
Because you could be a greedy, because in the barter system, in the marketplace, ideally you don't want only one person with eggs, right? Because then that person will be just like they could charge whatever they want theoretically for the eggs if people want an egg bad enough.
let me try to actually Google right now what is currency and see if they have a better explanation. And let's see if I agree with it or don't agree with it. So currency is a system of money in general use in a particular country. So a currency is in the most specific sense, is money in any form used in circulation as a medium of exchange, especially circulating banknotes and coins. More general definition is that currency is a system of money in common use, especially for people of a nation, right?
Especially of people of a nation.
Of a nation, especially.
Mm.
So basically, it's like a way to say that we agree that this value represents a middle point between other things.
Yeah, so I think maybe the problem, if there is a problem, is that that agreement is so far removed from the people who actually use money.
Yeah,
It's not even their agreement anymore, you know? Does that
right.
make sense?
I mean,
Point where I have no control over most of the things, like 98% of the things I buy, I have no control over the price of them in terms of negotiation. So how does a barter system extrapolate to that?
well, if you have no control of the negotiation, right? And if it's not a non-vital
That's the
product, you
thing.
can just not buy, and they can just not make money, and that's economics. That's different. So like supply and demand, right? Which means is like the more of something. So it's like the
Yeah,
prices.
I mean, supply and demand does not
Oh,
apply to currency.
are we talking about value at this point? Because like there's currency, which I want to narrow down to is just like paper, right?
Yeah.
Like you see a banknote, right? You see a dollar. You can't eat the dollar. You can't.
You can do it.
You can. It might not be healthy for you. It might not be nutritious.
Yeah, and it might be a crime. Is it actually a crime to burn money, or is that a myth?
It's a crime to burn money.
To
You
burn.
can't legally destroy money. I think only the U.S. governments or the Federal Reserve or the Treasury. I think one of them only they can like destroy money if they have to.
Yeah. So
So but
before,
I think like if I go out right now and I take a dollar, right, and I set it on fire, I think that's a crime.
okay, and if I eat it, it'll be a crime unless I have a really
I mean,
good.
it's intentional, yeah. Like if you intentionally destroy money, I think it's a
And if I
crime.
have a bad digestive system where it doesn't come out the other end wholly
Right,
intact.
right, right. So it's a crime to destroy money.
Mm.
Okay, so I think like like in of itself, a currency is just a representative agreement between the two two items that are wanted. And I think when you pump that system, you pump that agreement with with more money, like out of thin air, and you just give it to everyone, then you devalue that agreement and you devalue that system. So I think that's what inflation is.
Yeah, it seems like the agreement is devalued in another way. First, just from this discussion, the big thing that struck out on me is the value. The agreement is actually null and void because most things are not negotiable anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So let me see like inflation will reduce the value of money because the more you have in the system, the less scarcity it has.
Yeah, that's
If
what
it's like if everyone has it, no one has it. It's sort of like that, but at the same time, it's not like saying like if everyone has air to breathe, no one has air to breathe, right? So
totally makes sense because if it's like going back to the three-way barter system, let's say oranges are the means
yeah,
of um, exchange, then like it's basically like making whatever a bunch of new orange trees out of thin air, like your god, and then all these
yeah.
idiots.
We're not talking about acts of nature at this point. We're just
But
it's
that's
just
almost what it's like when you produce new money. It's like an act of nature.
yeah. So it's like people that have like if you make $10 a day, right, and you need to buy eggs, and eggs are normally 50 cents, right, and all of a sudden tomorrow eggs are $50 each because of inflation, for that same piece of paper, you're kind of stuck. You're kind of screwed because now you can't eat. And I'm trying to think of and that's caused by inserting too much money into the system.
So what if they just kept the amount of money static? Could that work or no?
Well. Then if everyone just hoards it or it's static, then you won't have inflation. Well, you might have it, you might not, because it depends on how much people take out of their pockets to put in the system at a given point. Um, the thing is that if you keep it static, people might just never use it,
because it's become so scarce.
and then people just never use it, and then there's no money moving around in the economy, and then that in itself fails too. Like Japan had an issue where they had deflation, where people were just hoarding cash and hoarding coins, because if I could buy more tomorrow with the same cash by just holding it in my pocketbook, I'd rather get like the two like more items for the same dollar that's in my pocketbook.
Oh wow. So that
So
actually happened. That
yeah, that actually happened. So
see?
I people say that some inflation is good because you need some way to incentivize people to use money to like go buy stuff because of the promise of money tomorrow. Um, so there's pros and cons. Like it's bad for people that are like fixed income for the rest of their natural life. They only make $500 a month or whatever. And if the cost of goods keep going up and they only get that $500 a month anyway forever, then they're stuck.
Man, that's another term I really don't understand. I feel like unless you're super rich, you're pretty much on a unless you're independently wealthy, you are on a fixed income.
Yes,
Unless
yeah.
you change jobs or get
Minus
raised
wages
every
and stuff.
day. But what if fixed income usually applies to like what people on disability or something like that?
No, like Social Security or like
Yeah,
pensions or stuff like that.
people
People that
that
have like fixed income.
people that make hourly, either hourly or salary, are also on a fixed income.
Yeah.
Like
So if all of a sudden, like let's use an extreme example. Like people need some consistency. Like you need to know that if you work today, this month you'll get $5,000, right? And let's say your rent is $2,000, right? You need to count on the fact that you'll get $5,000, and the social contract says that they'll take $2,000 in rent for it. If it's not consistent and not reliable, and tomorrow they suddenly say, I want $10,000 for rent out of the blue, then you're stuck in homeless because you no longer can fulfill that social contract of giving them $10,000, and you're stuck. So there has to be some consistency, something that people can count on, some stability for this whole currency thing to work. Like people have to be able to depend to use the currency in their pocket to buy stuff with.
mm,
That otherwise, then they're just out of luck.
how do you feel about this universal basic income idea?
I think that if you inflate, all right. So I don't want to get into like this concept has been too politicized, right? So I'm going to stay away from this term universal basic income, and I just want to say this from an economic standpoint. If everyone suddenly gets $1,000, no one really has $1,000 advantage over anyone else,
Yeah.
because the whole concept of being able to get certain goods and services over the other person is because you have some sort of financial one up on them.
Does everyone lose $1,000? Is that how that works out?
No, it's like if you give everyone money, then no one has it. In a very generalized, loose sense.
No,
Like it's a temporary help, but it's like not really like like for example, let's say well, I mean, if there's only one action figure, right? And everyone suddenly, like me and you, we both want it, and I had $10 and you had $20, right? Let's say suddenly we both get $1,000, right? Uh Whoever has more money based on supply and demand gets it, right? But then there's always a floor price. So it's like if people want to give stuff for free and are okay in a system where stuff is just given for free, then it might work, because like then no one really needs currency anymore. If we live in a society that values like giving for free, like the thing is that currency is about what people value, what human beings, the general population values,
Yeah, I
or
don't
the
think
overall population
the
values.
way you described it's about the values of the people making the currency and the people that have
But at the same time,
moved
but at the same time,
emotions of currency.
but at the same time, I could say that's really a shitty analogy, because like if you gave everyone on planet Earth a guitar, now everyone has a guitar and starts jamming, right? So that's sort of like really bad comparison now that I like reflect back on it. It's like maybe that wasn't the best way of saying it. But a lot of economists will argue that, hey, if you give if everyone has $1 million, then no one has $1 million.
No, and that part
Or
makes sense. But
yeah,
it
so
also
so like
depends
like
on
if you give everyone universal basic income, then in a small scale that's slow and steady, you'll slowly devalue it. You'll slowly make it so that there's inflation. You'll slowly make it so that no one really has it
but at the same
because
time,
money
said
money is a social construct.
it depends on how the society treats the money. So the entire society could be like, okay, everybody gets whatever. Let's say everybody gets $1,000, and then everybody announces somehow that okay, we're all putting this thousand dollars.
If everyone is able to still buy the same goods and services with even though they get more money, like universal basic income,
Oh, I got a good question. After you finish this thought,
what happened?
after you finish this thought, I got a good question for you.
Okay, so basically, like if everyone agrees that all the prices are the same no matter what, and everyone gets this money and they can still spend it and get the exact same resources that they want without competition, then yes, it works. But it's sort of like it's not going to work because then there's an increase of competition for provisional resources. Like for example, like let's say you live on the side of a cliff overlooking a beach, right? Or let's say you have a condo on Central Park West. That's a no amount of money can buy it because there's just one of one, right? It's like why certain Pokemon cards are so valuable because it might be like a one-off, right? So the issue is that you can't take money and just inflate it and give everyone more of it if the finite resources are still the same, that are like the finite goods that people want are still limited. Like if everyone has $1 million and there's only one Michael Jackson painting that exists or one pair of Michael Jackson gloves, then the money doesn't really mean much because it's still there's still just one of that specific item in existence. That's what I
So
was going to recommend.
that kind of leads into my next question, which is if you print a lot more money and give it out to everybody, but if the spending habits of those people don't change at all, does inflation still happen?
Then
Meaning they're not using the new money at all.
well, then it doesn't exist in the system. If you never use it, then you might as well have never printed it because it has no effect unless it goes into the system.
So then inflation won't happen.
Are you there? Did you
Yeah, I'm
freeze?
here. Can you hear me? Yeah, you're chopping up a little bit.
Hey, Michael, are you frozen?
You
Did
were
you freeze up?
on my end for a little bit.
Okay, well, let's get back to it. So you were
Sure.
saying something about like, so if nobody uses it, it's not in the system. Then it's not in the system. Then it was never introduced, so there's no
There's no
event.
inflation.
What happened?
So there's no inflation in that case.
Well, then you might as well have not printed it. If they're not going to use it, it's the same.
Why? What if they just decide to keep it for a rainy day?
Well, then there's inflation. If at any point they spend the money, it's introduced to the system, then there's inflation.
If at,
Inflation occurs when more,
wow.
well, in the currency sense, there's a system of how money flows. If more money is introduced into that system, then money by itself is devalued because if you have the system as a whole, you have to think like you think of it like a big ocean or a big system of stuff. Like it's money is like it's like a percentage of the overall availability. So if you increase the availability, your uh your percentage of the overall availability is smaller if that pool of money increases.
Right. But inflation is not only a function of the amount of money in the system, it's also a function of human behavior.
Yeah, that's the other, because the thing is that it's a social thing and people aren't perfect. Like people are not perfect.
And,
So
and and I don't think economy should be concerned with people being perfect. I think economics is an amoral, meaning there's no good and bad in economics. It should just be
I mean, economics is one of those things. Like they tell you like there's no such thing as perfect competition. There's no such thing as perfect like modeling, because
because
human behavior will always
yeah,
have their own little chaos.
it's a man-made system.
Yeah, it's a man-made system.
It's basically a form of engineering.
Like basically, I feel bad for people that, or I don't really, for people that like hoard cash. I think it's silly, because at any moment the system can be introduced with a lot more money, and then the money that they held is devalued, right? Like the like I guess like 50 years ago a quarter bought a gallon of gas, or like 100 years ago 15 cents bought you a whole hamburger meal
Mhm.
at a restaurant, right? And now it's like $10. That's a lot. That's a big change.
So what would you say to those people that say, "Hey, I'm hoarding this because maybe the all the telecommunication systems will collapse and I won't have access to it if I put it in a bank or if I put it in stocks. And then I'm going to be the one that actually has the most supply because these other people are all putting it in
Not sure.
electron."
Not sure.
What?
Like I don't think that'll happen, because like it's because at that point, if it gets chaotic to that point, then people might, like, I remember a time when people just threw away gold into a river because they didn't want to be shot by the Viet Cong escaping Vietnam.
Really?
Yeah, because like if they caught you with gold or something, they'd kill you and your family.
Yeah.
So like, or like if you were caught with like U.S. currency or something, you get shot. So there's a lot of extreme life and death situations. Like if society is functioning like it is now, kind of, then yeah, I'm going to go to the grocery store and take $100 and buy food, right? I'm going to buy a slice of pizza for $3, because society is still functioning and not in chaos. So currency can only exist in a system where there's order.
Oh, even currency depends on order?
I think, yeah, currency depends on order, like some semblance of order.
Damn, that's scary
Like
because,
like in the Civil War, right? Like Confederates have had their printed currency, right?
yeah,
But then once they lost the war, there's no governing body. $10 billion of Confederate currency meant nothing, right? Like North and South Vietnam, when they fought, the South had their own currency, the North had their own currency. South lost, and all the currency means nothing, right?
wow.
Or like so, like the currency itself, it depends on the governing body, whether or not the governing body still has authority to, I guess, affect people's lives.
So do you think that what would happen if you take that authority away from the government and give it to like another third party, like some kind of
I mean, that's what I guess, like something like what cryptocurrency is trying to do, right? Kind of
yeah. And I
like
was going to say, isn't the Federal Reserve like mostly private?
not sure. I gotta double check that. So yeah, it's just like I'd rather have, like, instead of $1 million cash, I would have $1 million house, because like the house, the real estate is like provisional asset. There's only going to be that house, right? And that plot of land, and as people, population goes up, there's land stays finite still. So, and then like if you just print out money out of nothing, it's just not going to be good.
Hmm.
Like I don't picture a good thing. Like history has taught us many times, like Venezuela, Germany, like Zimbabwe. Like there's too many instances where countries just printing money out of nowhere, and that's not going to help you, because people aren't going to value your money. And then how are you going to spend it? You don't.
Dang. Well, that made me really.
And then that's actually interesting why we bring it up, because now it's like we have a situation where, if we just print money from nothing in the US or whatever, then maybe next year you'll see that your dollars actually only, like today you could buy like a McDonald's meal for $10. Next year you'll realize that it costs you $20 to buy the same meal,
Wow.
and
See,
then you're all screwed. because that's one of the important things. Like that's what like inflation is kind of like screwing people, because a lot of people don't realize that inflation creeps up. It takes time to catch up, because like we'll have the initial rush because people haven't adapted yet, because people like consistency, people like some sort of static stuff, like static consistent, I can depend on this nature. But like once it catches up to them, like it's kind of scary, because like
You're making me very scared. Actually, I
no,
feel.
no, no, that's why like I'm like I hope I don't have more than 10 bucks in cash like now, because like I need to like move it into something that people still value, so that I can at least buy food to eat in the next like year or two.
You really think it's that serious?
I think it's serious. Like
So
when they printed more money than the existence of America in the last, like few months versus the entire country's existence. I think that's pretty serious.
wow.
So like if I look at it that in a very loose general way, I would say that today our $1 is now only has like 50 cents spending power next year, like the equivalency, because like the money is like out of nowhere.
And kind of seems to me like you're saying that's best case scenario. Worst case scenario is that
Is
social.
that the money's not worth anything, and then
But it
like,
seems like you're saying you're talking about Venezuela and these other places. So you're saying worst case scenario is social order collapses totally.
well, I mean, the way that people are now is that like you work for a paycheck, right? And the reason you're willing to work for a paycheck is that because with that paycheck you can pay rent, you can get food, you can get a guitar, you can play video games, you can pay for the electricity, right? Because the social contract, the social agreement between everyone is that I'll take this piece of paper to provide you with electricity, because I know that somewhere else someone's going to take this piece of paper so I can buy eggs, right? It's sort of like a mutual trust between everyone that I'm going to be able to go to the grocery store and buy milk with this dollar. Even and then that person that sold you that piece of milk, that milk is going to take that dollar, and someone will agree to sell him an apple or something.
Yeah.
So it's all just a mutual agreement right now. Like we all trust each other that we're not trying to screw each other, which is which is like why the currency is important, because we want to give it some value so that we can have some semblance of what we've been conditioned to follow or behave as individuals in society. Like this is all conditioned over thousands of years for us to like
Wow.
follow paper or follow whatever. So like there's an abstract part of it, and then there's like the direct part of it, and then everyone can do loop de loop all they want about it. But like I'm trying to like think of it in a very, very like weird abstract way, and not like this. None of this is scripted right now. We're just talking, and then like thought process is happening while we're talking. So
So is that why people are afraid that, or does that lead to, does that amount of economic instability, do you feel inevitably leads to greater authority for the government and a more
I
for,
mean, I don't want to get into what the government can do, or like
well,
stability or
I mean,
instability.
let's just take it outside of the US and out, just theoretically, do you think inevitably that,
I think any country, like there's a saying that my mom was saying that in a certain country they wanted to keep the people poor, always thinking about their next meal, because then they wouldn't be able to think freely and do something else,
wow,
because they wanted to have some sort of control. And I think that's very, very sad. And
yeah,
I think if people are too busy thinking about their next paycheck, because there's a social agreement going on so that they can pay rent, they can pay electricity, then they're not going to really have the time to think about other stuff or do other things, right? They're just moving on the system or cog or whatever. And I think that currency has become to that point where it's just about control. Like someone giving you $1 million in US dollars, which allows you to buy a house because of that social construct, right? It's just going to motivate, incentivize, or disincentivize people to do certain things.
mm,
It only works, the incentive only works if there is perceived value by the other party to take this social contract or currency or paper, whatever you want to call it.
mm, yeah, that's really bad in that case.
Yeah, like I don't I trust the bank, like sadly, like interestingly, or whatever you want to call it. Like I think that they do serve a purpose, but I don't like the system that's now of like, let's just print money out of thin air and just give it to everyone, because over time it's not going to have value, because the way that currency specifically works is that if there the more money that you put into the system of trust, because of the increase in quantity, the less percentage value you'll have, so the less utility you'll have with it. And I'm trying to put this in the most like simplest of ways, because it's not like I give everyone a chocolate bar, everyone has a chocolate bar, or I give, because people still get to enjoy the chocolate bar, everyone gets a car, so everyone has the use of a car. It's not so blind like that, because the currency and material items is very different. Like it's very important for me to distinguish that currency is not a material item, because it operates on the rules of social trust, and that operates on rules of scarcity. And
Well, it
like,
operates on whoever's controlling the rules, to be honest.
well, that too, right? You can, but I don't want to get into like this whole like crazy Illuminati conspiracy. Like I want to talk about it
I mean,
effectively.
if you're printing the money, you control that trust, right?
Yeah, like that's one way to look at it, because all it is a very wide, generalized, blanket form of trust.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about Illuminati. I'm talking about the actual, like,
Yeah, like I wanted to buy a Dexter Funko Pop, right? And I'm so glad I got it. And that cost me $91. And because of supply and demand, there's only so many of those released, that people are able to take this social trust value and give them $91. But that person that takes the $91 has to be able to trust that they can do something with that
right.
91 that I gave them. And that's what it is. Like, can he buy food? Can he invest? Can he, pay rent, utilities, whatever, enjoy life, pay for part of his whatever? Like, you have to be able to do something with the currency. The currency has to be able to move something into the system that says people can do something with it. Otherwise, it has no value. People have to have faith in it. Otherwise, it has no value. It's a system of faith, blind trust, really, at this point, or not blind trust. Which is why, it's a felony to create counterfeit currency and pass it off as real currency.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, like, you feel like the intention is a good intention to keep people afloat during interim disasters, but in the long
Like everyone has a good intention, and we don't want to take away from good intention. People need to be able to eat, live, and survive. And right now, like with the pandemic, people need to be able to do that. Right? It's just that we'll have consequences for how it's handled later, but those consequences are better than everyone dying now because the whole system collapses because no one can buy food or pay rent or whatever the case is.
yeah.
Like the long-term effects of inflation do not outweigh the immediate emergency of we needing currency, because there's a system of currency that exists in society to be able to perform everyday life or live everyday life.
Wow.
Like we're definitely, without a question, I think we're going to eat the shit next year with the value of money. Like, I think everything that we're doing, it's like MTA wants, subway rides used to be $1.50 when I was a kid, or $1.25, and now it's like $2.75, like going on to $3. Like, they're hiking it, but the service is going down because like there's a people need more and more currency to be able to do what they do, but it has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
So
in New York, it's on crazy, like, little economic.
Yeah. So so what happens? People have to pay more money. People have to make more money, right? The more they have to pay, the more they have to increase their salaries to match what they have to pay. So there's that too, right? Like, if your expenses go up, but your income is the same, you're kind of stuck.
And I wonder how many people are like feeling anxious now.
Well, yeah, because like their individual buying power, because of the social construct, is giving them less for the same work or whatever the case is. It's
Like,
like
I
it's
don't
same with
even
rent.
have a family or loan or own my own land, but like, just having this conversation is honestly like scaring the shit out of me, to tell you the truth.
I mean, it's scaring the shit out of me too, and like that's sort of why I just want to become rich, right? Because being rich and being in the system where I can use more of this currency that was man-made,
Yeah.
be able to do more with it because people agree to provide more services for it, will give me an advantage, hopefully, to live better
Yeah.
or live at all. And that's because people trust the system. Like if
So,
tomorrow
but
everyone said,
you want to be at least independently wealthy, because rich today could mean
like
poor.
if tomorrow everyone said, you know what, everything US dollar doesn't mean anything. We're back to the bar system. We're all trading sticks and stones, right? Or whatever the case is, that might not really work.
Yeah.
But like, because the thing is that it takes way too long to move from item to item to translate one word from another. Because like how do you put the value of someone giving you a haircut translate to like a video game, right? So you need a way, a social structure to be able to move between all those different points of work or things that are not exactly equivalent or considered equivalent.
I think I'm going to title this video "The Only Economics Lesson You'll Ever Need in Your Life."
Well, I mean, we'll probably do more if
That's
this
not
becomes
really.
more
That's not
important
really
or viral or whatever,
yeah.
because like,
More maybe like when I'm when it's not dark out. Because honestly, I'm I'm scared as fuck, dude. I'm like,
I mean, it's
I need
definitely like
tea. I need like a tea recommendation right now. Maybe
your
something.
recommendation.
Yeah.
Uh,
To soothe financial worry.
I would honestly take like a pear and just like boil that pear and then drink that as soup and then like throw in some tea leaves and that's kind of good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Like
Thank you.
Asian pear, cut it up, take out the seeds, take off the skin, throw it in boiling water and enjoy some nice, root
Uh,
thingy. Anyway, that I mean that's the basic conversation because the
yeah.
truth is I don't even like in my the problem that I'm having is that in my mind everything makes sense, right? But that doesn't mean it means jack shit if I can't like get it out of my mouth and like translate that knowledge elsewhere.
Well, you did an excellent job translating it, and you also, thank
I
you.
don't think I did because I don't even understand what I said because I'm overthinking it myself.
No, I understand how that feels when I try to explain like the basics of like computer networking to somebody,
Yeah.
which I find is like a big equivalent. Like people take the internet for granted, just like they take the economy for granted, and at this point, they kind of feel like it's a natural thing as opposed to a man-made.
I mean when I see the stock market go up and I see they like commodities go up or current like other things go up, I'm not thinking life is good. I'm thinking like the currency value has gone down
Wow.
because people need to understand that people need a store of value of some sort to be able to make sure that they can still do stuff. So like I'd rather have toys like action figures. I bought a Power Rangers figures because I think that Power Rangers figures is going to be worth more to society than that $20 it cost me initially now in cash. So if you come back to me in 5 years, do I think the $20 cash that I kept then will buy me more food, or the Power Rangers figure I bought for $20 now will buy me more food? I think the Power Rangers figure will get me more food in 5 years. I hope I don't have to sell it for food, but
How about these people that like, despite it all, or are these people just like so conniving? Like we can't even compare ourselves to them.
what do you mean?
Like,
Who and what and
are able
where?
to risk everything, declare bankruptcy, risk everything again, declare bankruptcy.
I don't really want to go into that too much because like bankruptcy may or may not be like a good or bad thing. Like I don't really want to get into that particular topic because like if you have a lot of debt, there is US law that says that you can like in certain cases and like yeah they have to get like their attorney or consult whoever. But like if you owe a lot of debt and you can never pay it or you can't easily pay it off, you can just like be like, oh, I'll take this bankruptcy mark on my credit profile and just not have to pay this debt anymore. Like that's one way to go.
But I guess most people are, and not even declaring bankruptcy, but like people that are like, oh, I sold it all to start this business, and I became, independently wealthy. Do you think that's more luck, or do you think that's more the quality of the work?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. Like I want to be wealthy. You want to be wealthy, Michael?
I want to be to the point where I don't have to.
You do you want to be better off financially, so to speak, than you are now? At some point?
Only to the point where, like, I don't have to worry about money, where I don't have to work for money, which is that's the definition of independently wealthy, right?
I mean, I guess so, right? That's one way to look
Yeah.
at it.
And for my family to have that benefit also.
But
But
are you at that point now?
between where I am here and over there, I don't really see much of a benefit.
Uh,
You
I
know?
mean, I want to be able to have freedom to do what I want to do.
Yeah,
That freedom depends on the society still valuing money and me having money.
Mm.
Like, as long as the society itself values that if I give them paper cash, I can get something out of it in return, and I'm able to have more of that paper cash, and that paper cash, people agree, entitles me to or gives me access to certain goods and services, then great. But it all depends on whether or not the system still functions.
Wow. Well, I guess at the end of the day, you just got to be grateful for the fact that, we got a roof over our heads and we are able to eat. I mean, obviously, looking at both of us, neither of us are starving. So
Yeah,
there is something to be said about enjoying the moment.
yeah,
Which is probably the best thing to do, especially at times like this, man. I feel stressed out now, dude.
yeah.
Got to get some pears.
So yeah, I mean, we really should really just like, you should watch that Parasite movie so we can do that review tomorrow.
Yeah, so what?
It's an interesting sidetrack because we both just got this idea on the fly and we're like, you know what, let's talk about this because you don't understand the concept of the middleman, and here we
I
are.
understand it now, but I don't like. My mind doesn't want to be that pessimistic to think that.
Oh no, it's definitely gone to shit. Like for me, it's more like wake the hell up, because the sooner you face the reality of it instead of staying in ignorance, hopefully the better off you'll be. Yes or no, who knows? But for me, it's a very pessimistic outlook because it's kind of crappy. But it's also like a motivating factor. Like I gotta basically acquire this resource or more of this resource that people agree allows me access to the things I want, desire, and or need. Like like if I want a better house to live in, I have to acquire this resource, which is cash, right? Like they put a price tag on it, $1.1 million, and that requires cash because that cash will allow them over time to spend it on, a Mercedes Benz or a car or whatever else they want, or like another place or whatever, because people still put faith into this intermediate of exchange. And if people don't put faith in this intermediate of exchange, then it doesn't work. Then it doesn't allow you to be used. Like, people have to believe in it. It's a faith-based system created by human social creatures and behaviors. It's like, you scratch my back, it entitles me to a back scratch in the future from you, right? But instead of and the contract of that is to the form of cash. Like, I do a haircut for someone today, I get money for it. Maybe I want a haircut from somebody else. I take that money that I got for a haircut and then get a haircut in the future. It's like an IOU almost. I guess that's why I call it like debts private and legal tender, for like all debts public and private.
Mm.
Because like items can be perishable, right? Like and items, they don't, you have to have like some sort of agreement to be able to keep stuff moving.
Wow.
Maybe you don't want an orange today, and that orange will go bad, but you want to buy one in 5 years. Well, then by giving someone an orange today, they give you a piece of paper, and it's a social agreement or IOU that says in 5 years you can get an orange for someone else to be able to have back. So
Like,
it's really just like, another way to look at it, it's just a bunch of IOUs going around.
well, let's give the people a silver lining to go on.
There is no silver lining.
All right,
The silver lining is I told you the truth, or I told you exactly what I believed, so you can do exactly what you need to do, because to give them a false silver lining is to lie to them and like deceive them otherwise. And I honestly expect for people to like ruin my world by listening to this, because like I'm being somewhat sincere. Anyway, thank you for listening to our acting purposes only display. This absolutely meant absolutely nothing. We don't know what we're talking about. Thank you for joining us. Join us next week for Parasite, or tomorrow for Parasite. Can't wait to do this movie with you, Michael. How'd you like the act?
It was great.
Yeah, we did a whole movie. It was great, right?
Yeah, I feel
Yeah. Acting purposes, improv. Yeah.
yeah.
Great stuff, Michael. Can't wait to do this again with you tomorrow.
All right.
All right. Peace.
So yeah, just remember, everybody out there, be safe and
Yeah, be safe. Well, Silver Lining was all an act.